for a limited time, $1 gets you full access to all the automotive industry news and content CBTNews.com has to offer. CBT News. Subscribe today. Welcome to CBT News with Bridget Fitzpatrick.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to CBT News. I'm Bridget Fitzpatrick. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's Chris Riggins with today's top stories.
Thanks, Bridget. First up, many EV stocks have reported strong performance so far this year, but Rivian shares continue to fall to record lows, briefly falling below the $13 mark earlier in March. The EV maker has been losing money on every vehicle it builds and narrowly missed its annual production target of 25,000 units last year. Because shares have decreased by almost 25% so far, investors have been unnerved by the weakening demand for EVs as interest rates hike and fears of a looming recession creep in. The trial to decide how much money Tesla must pay a black elevator operator, who a jury found to have experienced severe racial discrimination while working at the automaker's flagship assembly plant, began on March 27th in a federal court in San Francisco. In addition to a class action complaint in California State Court and a related case brought by the state's Civil Rights Monitor, Tesla is accused of permitting pervasive racial hostility at the Fremont facility. However, both cases are still in their early stages. Next up, public attention was drawn to the $1 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act in late 2021 because it provided financing for a flurry of EV charging facilities. However, an additional requirement concealed inside the legislation has surfaced. According to the act, which calls for a final rule to be issued next year, all vehicles sold in the U.S. must have the capability to passively detect when drivers are under the influence of alcohol and stop them from operating a vehicle. Lastly, in its first ever direct election held, members of the United Auto Workers voted to replace their president Ray Curry and usher in a new era for the well-known labor organization by electing Shawn Fain, a member of UAW's Reform Group. This year, UAW negotiations with Detroit automakers, which often result in a short-term cost increase for investors, will rank among the most significant and controversial in recent memory. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next is Adam Aarons, president of Patriot Automotive Group. We'll be right back.
Delivering the news dealers count on for 10 years. Subscribe today and join thousands of other automotive professionals. CBT News, 10 years strong.
Technology and the global pandemic have accelerated much of today's customer and employee expectations. Today on Inside Automotive, we're pleased to welcome back Adam Aarons, president of Patriot Automotive Group, to share how he's continued to adapt in today's market and land his stores on the list of best dealerships to work for. Check it out.
You've got such an incredible staff. You do a great job. I know you personally, and you really work overtime to make sure that your people have got everything they want to succeed, everything they need to succeed, and that's why you keep them around so long. So thank you.
Well, I think our pleasure, and thank you for mentioning us. We're always thrilled that somebody recognizes what we do, but we would be happier if everybody was doing those things. In other words, everybody asks the secret. What's the secret? And that is that have no turnover. Yeah. That way you can build people in a better direction. And it really works very well for us. And it works to insulate and protect our bottom line at the same time, right? So you can have the highest paid, highest comped associates with the best benefits if they're the most productive associates, right? So if you look at the associates on your team and the revenue per associate goes up based on how long they've been there. And I know, if you just looked at the last couple of years, pandemic numbers aside, gross margin per associate's through the roof, but take a look at revenue per associate. So if you have a $100 million store and you have 75 people there, then each of them is producing $1.3 million in revenue. And one of the goals that we measure is to get that number bigger next year. And the thing that kills that 100% of the time is turnover.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There's not a dealer listening right now that doesn't suffer from that out there at some level, And
I think it's gotten better. And as it relates to talking about technology, right? So we were, unbeknownst to us, prepared technologically for institution of remote selling and or non-in dealership based on everything except for what the state would allow you to do as far as wet signature and things like that. So we already had a digital retailing platform. It wasn't expensive. It made sense. And I'm not going to tell you that people were completing purchases there, but why would you eliminate that segment of the market that intends to go as far down that road as they're comfortable? So we had already had that in there. It wasn't something new that we had to do.
Right.
But that being said, somebody asked me a question last week in front of a group of dealers, and they said, this digital retailing, how much has it taken over? I said, the only place where digital retailing numbers are through the roof is where in places where you can't complete the purchase in person. In other words, one of the used car programs or one of the used car retailers, a Carvana, where you can't walk in,
right?
You can't talk to anybody,
right?
So you have to finish there. The same thing happened in many ways with Tesla as well.
Yeah.
All right, be sure to watch this interview in its entirety right here at cbtnews.com. That wraps up our show for today, but we invite you to join us back here again tomorrow morning for all the latest news and trends impacting the retail automotive industry. And be sure to follow us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Bridget Fitzpatrick. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
CBT News, your #1 resource for auto industry news and content. Join the #1 most watched newscast in the automotive industry. CBT News. Subscribe today.